Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Welcome to the Bellows Falls Village Trustees regular meeting. It's Tuesday, January 25th, 2022, and just after 6:01. We're down here in the Town Hall Lower Theater. I'm telling you, it's a little cold. I'm glad you're lucky you're at home. But that's being worked on. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. And we need to approve the minutes of Tuesday, January 11, 2022.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Any additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters and/or pressing matters that will require ratification at a future meeting? Do you have anything, Scott?
No, I don't have anything from tonight.
Should I say we will be having an executive
Yes.
session at the end of the meeting? So, all right. Public comment on items. Anyone out there? I see nothing.
Somebody raising a hand, give them a second here.
Yeah.
Nope, I don't see anybody that's got anything.
Okay. No one behind it, no one on the side. All right, managers report then.
So thank you. So a couple things, just I guess, just for everybody's general information. The redistricting, if you guys remember, we had a conversation back in the late fall, I think it was.
Right.
and
Yep.
Went through a process, some feedback back to Montpelier. There is now an updated House district map that's on the vermont.gov website. And it does then list all of the updated responses to the feedback that they received. As well as for our county, there are going to be a committee hearing on government operations on January 27th. Again, talking about this new map.
Thursday.
I'll try to get you a copy of it, just for distribution's sake, just so people can see it. At this point, I don't think there's anything more that they've asked us in terms of, formally taking a position. I think it's now really kind of going through Montpelier.
Well, you do know that Kathleen sent us all a request for any additional comment that she needs by the end of the week.
Right. Which will go to that hearing on the 27th.
7th, yeah.
And then there is an actual website that they have, an email site as well for redistricting 2022@leg.state.vermont.us. So we'll post all this stuff up on the website for people that are interested and keep everybody up to date as to the process of what's happening. But that's, at the moment, that's still going through a committee review. And there are some draft updates, so we'll want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to look at that prior to any. I would imagine it'll come back through for additional comment prior to any adoption up in Montpelier. I guess a little bit of good news, the Alumni Association has obviously had to cancel their June activities for the alumni dances and the alumni gathering for the last 2 years. They did respond back to me this year. They are planning on having an event in June. So we will start to see some permit requests and some other items coming to your attention for use of Waypoint and some other facilities. For right now, they're looking at June 17th for the majority of their activities. So I guess maybe on the good news front, hopefully that shows that maybe we're moving more towards a normal activities and more normal summer. So that was somewhat good news, but you will have some of that on a future agenda, and looking forward to having some activities like that coming back. And was it?
Okay. All right, moving on to the agenda. Number 1 is the notice of public hearing for the rental housing ordinance.
Now, I put this on here without any specific action for you tonight, just because I wanted to ask you a couple of questions for update purposes and just get your sense of how you want to go forward with this. The state legislation has been reintroduced. It's sitting in government ops. We're going to have a hearing on the reintroduced legislation February 15th. That's no guarantee that it'll get reported out and then go back to the floor for action. It's just simply grinding back through the process that it went through last year. And it made it all the way up to the governor, I think, and then he vetoed it at the end of session, if I remember correctly. So there is a new bill that's been reintroduced. It's basically an update of what was introduced last year with a few modifications. The issue that I want to just touch base with you about is we never really included any fees. They're still proposing a $35 per location registration fee. I don't know if you want to copy the state ordinance in terms of how you want to go forward with that, or you just want to leave it and then we'll get to it at some point in time after we've gone through the hearing and an adoption process.
I thought there was going to be a per unit charge for some part of the ordinance.
The
Like,
the state is only adding that additional $35
Yeah.
to put it into the state database, basically. And then
Okay.
they have other fees that are associated with other types of inspections, but
Mhm.
those are already on the books. So they're not adding anything new. But that's the one that they are adding.
mhm.
In our legislation, we propose nothing new, so I just wanted to sort of bring that to everyone's attention, get your feeling on it before I put it back out.
Do you think it would be more prudent for the public hearing to be slated for the end of the month, our last hearing in the month of February, since that would be the 22nd, since the state legislation meeting is going to be on the 15th?
Certainly,
Nice.
yeah, I mean, we're not under a time constraint, it's just really the pleasure of the board.
I mean, then we would have more input at that point,
Yeah. we
from
might
where
know
the
a
state's
little-
going.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
That would be 2/22/22.
Yeah. What do you think?
That
Does that
sounds
sound
good.
okay?
yeah, that'd probably be the better.
All right.
Yeah,
I
then we
think that
have,
makes sense.
yeah, then we get more input from them at that point.
The other question that I have for you too is, from an outreach standpoint, if there are specific organizations or people that you would like me to send a copy of the notice to, just so we get a broader public participation. I mean, we've got, what, 6 people on our Zoom meeting, and Susan's on, so she'll probably do some publicity through the
Right.
media. But besides that, a lot of times people don't really
I
follow
would-
our day-to-day activities.
I would
so-
think Chuck would have probably a list of people he works with that he would like to include. And I know that when we had landlord tenant meetings, when the previous manager was here, there were a number of people that she contacted when they turned up. So you might have access to those lists, and those people. would
I'll certainly resurrect those and make sure they get a copy.
Yeah,
So at least
that
they're
would make
aware.
sense.
I didn't know if there was any specific.
Do you
folks
guys
that-
have some ideas?
Yeah, I would say landlords and Stewart Property Management has a number of.
Okay. Do we know the folks that have the largest majority?
Yeah.
So we'll make sure we reach out. So I'll hold off then and push that off to the 22nd. And the new legislation is 20 some odd pages long. If you'd like a copy of what's been reintroduced upstate, I could certainly get a copy of it out to everybody prior to the 22nd, just so you can read it. It's, fairly straightforward. It's not horribly difficult to plow through.
Okay.
So I can certainly send a copy of that around as well, just so everybody gets a chance to look at it. So,
Great. Okay. So I guess that's it. We will move this to the
Push it off.
22nd.
Okay.
See what we can, come up with, to hear from the state. And if you have any other thoughts, let Scott know if you have some other places you'd like to have them included for the hearing. Second item on the agenda is the proposed 2022 budget calendar. And that-
last year we started a little late, and I know a couple members of the board felt a little rushed, so I wanted to at least give us a chance to do a preliminary look and see what you think in terms of, again, these dates are all subject to your review and approval. I just threw them out there just to give you some structure, so you can get a chance to give me feedback and we'll finalize it, but this would give us a chance to break it out with some of our larger departments not sharing the same evening. So you have a chance to get into some of our separately water and sewer funds, separate from our public safety. And then still have a couple meetings to do reviews or make requests or modifications, and we can still have time to adopt prior to our informational meeting and our budget vote.
You folks stick to the schedule.
Looks good to me.
Were you gonna be out during some point of
I'm
this?
gone for the month of February.
Okay, and can you participate by Zoom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That still works.
I looked at the dates, they're fine with me,
Okay,
we'll make them work.
great.
too.
And we'll start working towards that. And again, we can modify whatever the board feels if they need extra dates or times. or
Yeah, and these are
whatever.
regular meetings, whereas in
Right.
previous years, we'd have a Saturday meeting occasionally if it's needed, that sort of thing, so that's possible. That's something we need.
Yeah, if we get into something, we really need extra time, we can always do a special meeting to make sure that you have the time you need.
And I don't know if we have any feelings about wanting to push the date. I know that the state has allowed for movement of the date of the annual meeting, but I don't know that we necessarily need it based upon our calendar. I think we're good,
Yeah,
at this point.
I did check with the Secretary of State's office reference criteria, similar to what's going on in the town for petition or non-petition.
Right, and I
And I-
believe I sent you guys what I found on the state site about all those different questions
Okay,
as well. About that stuff that we could move if we needed to, but I think we have plenty of time. And we're gonna see how the pandemic is moving. I think.
Right.
So
Okay, good.
I think we're good with this item. Well, that moves us off to the delinquent tax report, item number 3.
So I just wanted you guys to take a quick look at where we stand, just because we're going to be, as we talked about after the joint meeting, we gave everybody an extra time to get into that state program. My understanding is a few people have at least applied. I don't know where they stand because again, they applied directly to the state. So we only hear from the state once they've granted some relief. But be that as it may, we're planning on starting with the process basically at the end of the month. So we'll start in March. And, see where we go.
I've got a few questions. I went through the list and I don't know if everybody else did or not. But, for example, the first item that you have on the list was crossed off, business been gone for years. Now, are we writing that off?
I think at this point, what we'll have to do is, I do have some accounts receivable that are other types of accounts that are uncollectible that I'm going to propose to you tonight that you just take out of our accounts receivable. But ultimately, we can just basically cut this list down and certainly say, based on our policy, that, you know, these are uncollectible. It's a waste of our legal time and our money to try to go after some of these that quite frankly aren't going to be collectible.
Right.
The entities are long.
Then I would suggest that you come back to the meeting with a recommendation on any of these accounts
Okay,
that we ought to write off.
great.
Because it's kind of foolish to keep them on the books.
Well, it makes
And
the
and
numbers.
certainly if you're accruing interest.
Right.
A little bit further down, there was a Robert DeRocha, deceased.
Yeah.
Now, do we have a claim in his estate, or is there an estate, or it would seem as though,
His house is still unoccupied, it hasn't been sold,
Right.
but it needs a lot of work, so.
but I would think that this is a prior lien, and
I don't know where we stand in
Yeah.
terms of where the creditors might be and where we would stand in position of any assets or distribution.
taxes are right up there pretty high.
Usually they're pretty close in the beginning of the list.
Right.
So in that kind of case, I think you want to at least try. And if the estate is, you know, has no assets, then obviously you're not going to collect anything.
So I would, to me, if any of the, if there's another one here, I don't know if there was, about deceased.
Yes, there is on the second page, 2 or
Second
4.
page. Then I would just make sure that we've got a proper lien filed with the estate.
Okay.
yeah, because the DeRosa one is not even a year old.
No.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's 37 Old Terrace, is that one of the
No,
ones that was?
No,
No. but-
oh, I think it is on the
That's
other
one of them.
page.
Well, we have that arrangement, if you guys remember, we tied
Yes.
in
With
a
the sale of that.
2-year potential abatement with the idea that he would have a building permit and start construction and be able to show us
Exactly.
reasonable activity.
Movement, yeah.
So we'll have to come up with a way to, we'll make sure that that's understood, because that was part of that, BCA resolution. I can't remember when it was done, fall, I think, or spring, I don't remember. exactly.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I
Because
guess,
I thought 37 Old Terrace was the house that was sat behind the other house.
You had
No.
3 of them, if I remember, 3
No.
properties.
That one is Dawson, Ashley Dawson, 37 Old Terrace. It's-
37 Old
So, yeah,
Terrace.
so you got 2 addresses there.
two, yeah, it
37.
does. It's the
It
same
it
address on
says
both.
Old Terrace for both. So I think
Right.
it's 2 different properties.
So the Dawson property is a 3-story brown one.
Is the
And
37.
the Valley is one of the, or the Bailey is one of the 2 lots. that
Across the
is-
street.
Across the street, okay.
So what's the Dawson, 37?
I don't know.
I think it is.
I think it is too, but I think there's a confusion on that.
Yeah, it
of those-
does.
One of
Yeah.
those
Those
is
are odd
37.
numbered, those are odd numbered houses on that side.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's probably the right
33,
address, and then the other 2 are different, across the street.
Yeah, I'll go back to that resolution and just make sure that we have the right.
I think it's like 14 or 16 is in the Valley.
Now, the next 2, James Elsener, it says town owned. And Chris Glennon,
Yeah,
which is town
town
owned.
owned,
Right.
yeah.
And my question is, do we have a claim against our delinquent taxes on those properties? I mean, it's not the same as a deceased, but
No, but don't forget, you guys had filed a previous lien prior to the tear down of the property. So you have I think it's a $5,000.
Yeah, we do.
Against the property.
because we wanted to include the cost of the,
Right.
Yeah.
So at some point,
so there is a lien on that.
yes.
Yes, there is.
If there's a sale or some transaction, the goal is to recover all the money that's been put in. It's close to 80 grand or 85 grand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's holding with all the town.
Realistically, I don't see that happening.
I don't know.
Yeah,
There's been some interest stuff and I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll have to see, but
Time will tell.
yeah.
I was
I
hoping
think
that,
I'd get it on the market, but what about the Elsener?
all
That's-
assessor, yeah.
That's town owned. And is it like, well, I guess the town owns it, but I mean, do we still have any kind of I assume they're gonna sell it. I don't even know what it is.
well, isn't that the 3-decker that burnt on,
It's the one next to it,
next to it?
on Church.
Yeah.
Name of that street.
Church
Church Place.
Church Place, yeah.
Mhm.
Is
I
it
don't
the
know the
vacant
address
lot?
on that one.
Is it
No.
the vac- No,
It's next to the.
Oh, that's the one that burnt, yeah,
The
exactly.
one that burned, this is the smaller one next to it.
Yeah, the smaller
Yeah.
one, yeah.
well, if the town owns it, I think, that's
Well,
where.
I know, but how come, why do we sit with the cost still on the books? We don't own the property. How do we get our taxes paid? We just still have to wait until they sell it
Right.
or
Yeah,
develop it?
based on your policy, you don't go after somebody for tax sale until they have accrued $2,000 worth of unpaid taxes for 2 full years.
Right, no, I get
So
that.
when you look at this one, this property still hasn't hit that 2-year,
Mark, yeah.
$2,000
Mhm.
mark.
Right.
So now we can,
Getting close. I just
Right.
want to be sure that we've got our dibs in.
right. Well, I think you want to be recognized for your, right, for your debt, so that if there's any distribution of anything, that you're at least in line.
Right on, right. Okay. Of course, the hole in the roof, the McAllister, I don't know if Sherry McAllister, if her lien is a different property than Stephen McAllister's. We don't know what the addresses are here.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
it's got a different ID parcel
yeah.
number, so.
So it
They're
is,
separate.
they
Yeah,
are separate, so
This says white building off Granger.
That's the.
The old chemical.
that's the. old-
Yeah.
That's
that's the
the,
big-
I don't know why she just didn't say that, but okay.
Nobody knows.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, and
But
it has
again,
been
I
going on for
think-
years, so.
I think that-
Something.
That one and 25 Hapgood Street are issues of, and I don't know what the one is, down on South End, but You know, do we want to foreclose that?
Well, Barker still hasn't reached the point where it's eligible for closure. We're working with them on some other actions to try to get them to do some cleanup and tear down, but it's becoming less and less like we're gonna do it cooperatively. So we'll probably end up with some other actions, enforcement actions. So,
So the Kemco building and 25 Hatfield are going to go to tax sale, are they not? There's no
well,
reason
based on the policy, they will at least begin the process of going to
Yeah.
tax sale.
they want to pay it off, that's fine with us. I mean, if they owe us, if the Kemco building is 5,700, imagine what the town tax is on it.
Then we have Town of Rockingham on the last page.
Yeah, look
That
at
owes
that.
us money. I would hope that they settle up their account with us. here.
I don't see what yet. Yeah. Someone got jet.
So anyway,
Yeah.
so anything 2000,
It's on your current policy,
Okay.
which is not that old. I think you guys reviewed it and updated like 2018 or so, so it's not that old. I can bring it back to you if you want to take another. look.
well, you know, my feeling is the longer this thing is delinquent, and if it's over 1,500, I'd at least think about it,
Mhm.
you know? If it's just the last year or something like that, and it's under 2,000, I wouldn't
Do anything
push
this
it,
way.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's a couple there that are in that.
Vicinity, yeah.
category,
The Green Mountain Specialties one has bothered me because this, I mean, look how old it is, 2011 to 2012. I know the business isn't in business, but my understanding is maybe one of the owners is still alive. I mean, why did they get to walk away without paying taxes? I just don't understand. I know they were asked to leave the building because that's the Robbie paid for that. But the taxes were still the taxes. Why aren't they being paid? Why
I
haven't
don't
we
think that
pursued it?
entity has any assets. And I don't know if you can attach it to somebody's personal, because I don't know what was actually.
That'd be your only source
Right.
of repayment. would be
Yeah.
a person.
Right. You'd have to
I
attach to
understand that,
somebody
but I
personal.
mean, my business is still hooked on my home. So
And
I've
they
got a
might
lien
not-
on my home because of
Right.
money, taxes I owe. So therefore,
I mean, that's one of the
We have to
questions
go
when
after
we
the
get into
personal.
it with the lawyer and we start
Yeah.
digging into it. Those are the questions. they
I
start
think it's
trying to find out.
I think it's a write-off myself.
at $5,500,
Huh?
I wouldn't throw that in the street.
Can you get a collection agent?
Well, again, if it's
Yeah.
an agent, if it's some sort of LLC or other type of corporate entity that has no assets,
Yeah.
and there's no, ongoing personal liability, which a lot of these things are set up that way.
But we don't know that. I mean, what I'm saying is that it hasn't been investigated to find out if indeed that's the
Well, we
case.
will, that'll go through the process when we put, when the attorneys work on that, that's part of what they
Okay.
do. Is look into some of those things.
Because it's been on the books for 10 years now.
Right.
We haven't done anything.
Yeah, so now's the time to do
Fish
something
or
with
cut
it.
bait, as they
Yep.
say.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if it's collectible, we should go after it. If it's not collectible, I think at some point we should come back and just write it off and say,
I agree.
Yeah,
for whatever.
Gary had his hand up. I don't know if
Yeah,
Gary
I see that.
can put there.
Gary,
Probably not relevant, just that the sale of the building was supposed to eliminate all the taxes, but the owners, Green Mountain Specialties was the children of the owners, so it might have got messed up in some paperwork, but I believe that all of the outstanding tax was supposed to be part of the purchase agreement.
so that means whoever purchased it, which is BFADC,
The town, actually.
Okay.
Oh, no, I think you're right. It might
they
be
did the
BFADC.
purchase, I remember that.
Yeah.
So therefore, that money should be owed by them. So, but anyway, do the research, figure
Right.
out what we need to do with it.
Right.
The other McAllister property, according to the finance folks, and said that that's Front Street. That's a
Front Street?
address.
Right. Yep.
So,
Ring the bell
which is
now.
a separate, like you saw.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
It's a separate property.
Separate location.
That's right, because the part's going by the parcel number.
Yeah.
Anything further on these? And they're moving forward with what date, or this is the process starting now?
Well, we've been in touch
February, right?
with the attorneys with just preliminarily, and we'll start probably with notices sometime around the end of February, early March. you're gonna give so much notice with 30 days and, you know, it'll be a while till I get back to you with where we stand. But I'll keep in the loop as we go forward, and we'll try to find out on some of the research on some of these. Are there any assets to attach, or are we just wasting our time and our energy?
Right.
Make a recommendation to clean up some of the list.
I just want to be sure that we're, before we waive or write this stuff off, that we're doing our due diligence. It is tax dollars, and some other taxpayers are paying for somebody else's delinquent taxes. Some of it's us.
We'll turn over the rocks and see what we find.
Okay,
Sometimes you don't find much.
okay. Let's see. Next item is resolution to remove uncollected aged receivables.
So as we were going through some of these and trying to clean up just balance sheet items and other items, these 5 particular items came through as either so old that the item is beyond collection, or they were for services, for example, like fire alarm fees and some things that we don't do anymore. And probably, you know, from the old monitoring, it used to be central station type of monitoring. So, and a couple of them, some of the other ones that were water turnoffs, we now have a separate process for how we do the collection. We do a direct bill on that, so that, you know, we're not missing any of these fees anymore. That's why some of these small ones were turn off fees that were part then sold, and the new owner didn't have that obligation, obviously, with the previous owner. It's just, at this point, just, it's not collectible. So that's what those change in ownerships are. The final one is just, it's septage, and that entity is been out of business, and my understanding is that they are bankrupt and there is no assets to attach to, but we can certainly try if you want to go through a small claims process. I'm not sure we'll get anything more than a judgment with no ability to collect.
Well, there's an ability, you just have to go back there with the attorney every year and continue to renew the request for attachment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is that. Whether it's worth it for $2,800.
Well, I'll leave that up to you as to whether or not you guys think that's.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll
certainly
make a motion to write off these delinquent receivables.
I'll second.
Further discussion on the item?
Yeah, so like the second one. I mean, that seems odd.
The monitoring
Assuming
fee.
everybody else has paid theirs
Yeah,
at the time.
yeah, how this one slipped through. I mean, how old is it?
Well, we
Yeah,
got out of
here.
the alarm monitoring
There it
business.
Right.
Well, for a couple, 3 years, 4 years?
It just frustrates me because why should they
Get theirs waived
and nobody else did?
and nobody else did.
So, I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about, but. And the last one on the list, that individual's still around, and I know that's a very small amount, but it's just kind of the point of the matter to me.
Well, again, it's tax dollars that we have to pay because they're not paying.
Yeah, those are more utilities, and those are based on shut-offs.
Yeah,
Right,
Okay,
those were-
utility,
Those were
yeah.
accrued utility charges. Which is a little different than taxes. You have to go
Yes,
through a
but
different
it's
process.
fee-based. Everyone else.
It's money
pays
that was
fees.
owed.
Yep.
I get it. But
so like the second one that I just asked about, has that ever been like, have they been rebilled or requested or?
Not since I've been here, but I think prior to here, but I don't know how long ago the last bill was sent.
Yeah,
These are all over 120, but we don't know how far over 120.
I guess some of them are, it could be 120 months.
Instead of 120 days, yeah.
But,
2 or 3 of these on here I've never even heard of.
Oh, yeah, I know.
The very top, one.
Yeah, me neither.
That must be an older one, I've never even heard about.
Well.
But I think your
yeah.
point is that if we did nothing other than send a bill out to
Yeah, some of them I have rebuilt.
Loyal
So
Order of the Moose and James Lober, we might get. we
Might see
collect it.
something.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
So are you gonna suggest a friendly amendment to remove those two from
his motion?
I would say we pass the motion, but, before he charges them on.
I could hold it, and we could try to
Or however
collect
you wanna
something
do it.
before
I don't
and
care how you
do it at the meeting on the 22nd. There's no timeliness to this, as you can tell.
Right.
Been sitting for a while.
So,
2 more weeks isn't gonna change anything.
gentlemen, would you like to dissolve the motion? Would you like to ask him to take back his motion, rescind his motion, and wait till next meeting?
I mean, I view it as cleaning up the books and moving forward, and the spirit of this is, keeping up with the billables and collections at the
Mhm.
time, and part of what we're dealing with is that we haven't been good about that.
Well, my thoughts are half and half. My colleague has a point about the old alarm fees.
Yeah,
There is a point with the other two gentlemen about cleaning up the books. I'd say kick it into neutral for a couple of weeks, the next meeting. Send them a bill in the interim, and we'll see
And
if
see what we
anything
get.
turns up. That would be my opinion.
55 cents plus somebody stuffing an envelope to see if we can collect anything.
That's okay with me. I'll withdraw my vote.
Unless,
And that'd be
I mean,
great.
unless the manager or the staff determines, undercovers that was, like Jeff was saying, that was maybe that was, for lack of a better term, on our end, something that where we dropped the ball on our
Right.
end 3 years ago
And
and all
worth
that.
knowing that, I suppose. Yep. I mean, again, these aren't just numbers, these are dollars.
I understand that.
So again, it matters, $3,000 worth of,
We can try, and I can, we can
Deletion.
hold this, and like I said, if it sits another 2 weeks, it won't. it
so
won't
please
age.
bring it back to us
It's already aged,
on the 22nd.
Yeah.
All right, that'd be great. Thank you,
Okay.
Jakes. Oh. Next,
The
okay.
other thing is, obviously, these are current. The
Mhm.
27,000 and 23,000 jumped out, but it's obviously current, so.
Right, current bill,
Yes,
yeah,
right.
that's septic, yeah.
Correct.
Right, so we're just looking at the over
Yeah, if
120.
they were not current, I'd be looking at it different.
Right.
Excuse me,
Can I point out something?
go ahead. Please.
I just want to make sure that on this list that we're only talking about writing off the ones that are in blue. Do you have a color copy?
It's just the 5, Alyssa. It's not all the other ones.
Okay.
We're gonna rebuild. Right. The other ones we were rebuilding.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure that was known.
Right, we're only talking about the 5, and of the 5, we're gonna try to collect on 2 others and see if we can get something, and then I'll bring it back for.
On the 22nd.
22nd.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, Liz, I didn't look up. See if you wanted to, hey?
So, all right, no problem.
Oh, next item on the agenda is the water billing insert discussion. And I think that's it.
So I just want to frame it a little bit. John is here to speak to it, but basically with the community visit, one of the 3 priority areas was building redevelopment in Bellows Falls. And as that committee began meeting and a task list was developed, it was clear that there was not the technical skills amongst community members to really get at some of the thornier development issues, some of the pro formas and financing pieces, some of the zoning misfits that happened in our neighborhoods here. And so with BDCC, the town and village engaged in a technical assistance project with Incremental Development Alliance, and had a lot of good sessions, workshops, participation, some extra education for small developers that were interested, and a really active group of community members kept meeting afterwards. And it goes under the moniker of RIDWIG, which is the Rockingham Incremental Working Group, Incremental Development Working Group, sorry. And so that group has done some work in how to move forward with some of the smaller incremental development projects. And we feel that that's a pretty important thing. One of the primary challenges for employers with open positions is attracting people to locate here because of affordable quality housing. And so that's something that this group could really help to make a dent in. And so then one of the tasks that the group came up with that would help with outreach was this water bill insert. And John is going to present some of the details of Ridwig's work and why we want the outreach.
Wait, one sec. This is a town function. And why are you using town billing as opposed to? the
Yeah,
village
good. So
water
good
bill?
question. So the project focused on Bellows Falls, the zoning in Bellows Falls, and it's really Bellows Falls property owners that that this has to focus on. And the benefit to the village is increased taxes, the increase in the grand list. So there's a reason for focusing in the village, and there's a benefit to the village.
And Gary, one of the things you said, at least I think you said here, is that they would size the message such that it wouldn't increase the postage cost or something? Is that-
Correct, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, was that in the document here?
Yeah. Because we have to mail those.
Yeah, we
bills
pay
out,
for that,
so, yeah.
exactly.
So I think Gary summed up pretty much what the incremental development group is about, and, mostly volunteers and townspeople, community members, and then some other members of the stakeholders in the community and surrounding communities. And really what came about, the reason why we would want something like this is it's not easy as a community member to get access to other resources around unless you're visiting the town website on a very routine basis or something else, reading the newspaper, whatever that may be. There's lots of, as we're seeing now, there's lots of funding that's coming for housing and development, and that we wanted to be a resource to be able to let the community know, particularly even building owners, landlords that do not live in the community, live outside the community. How would they get access or know about some of these resources that are available? So this mailer, this insert was really to say twofold. One, let's get information out there that everybody is going to see. Everybody opens their water and sewer utility bill. And that's a good way to get a resource out to them. Number two, I would assume that very few people really look forward to receiving their utility bill. But this is a way that we can put some positive information out there that says, hey, there's a lot of energy happening in this town. And this is how the community is coming together. And it's not just, here's your bill, please pay on time. So we felt that it would probably do a good job of really expressing to the community that there are a group of people, and we would welcome more to join this group, that we're seeing energy from the lights in the town, some of the painting projects that have been happening in the community, and the railroad station and other things. Let's capture that energy while we have it, and let's expand on that. And this was one way that we felt could do that.
Questions? Comments?
So how you mentioned getting this to those other folks that are outside of the village areas?
Yeah,
as far as, I get the property owner part, they would, obviously, if they live outside of the village or out of state, they're gonna get their bill and see this, but what about other folks?
it would only go to whoever you're mailing the utility bill to.
Yeah.
So other than that, obviously we are posting some of this information on the website.
That's what I was getting at.
But my assumption is that everybody that owns a building is
Gonna get something.
gonna get this in the mail.
That makes sense. Nice.
We hope so, and we hope they open the.
Right.
Yeah. When's the next going?
March.
March?
Is there like an example of is there a number of properties that have the carriage houses that the property owners can use some of these resources to develop?
Yeah, certainly. There's, through the incremental development group, this working group, we've identified things like carriage houses, and the reason why we're thinking incrementally is, you could wait around for, dozens of years for big projects to happen. Let's look at the Bellows Falls Garage project. That's going to take a lot of money and it takes a lot of time for 20+ units. Well, if we can get 20 people within the village to create a housing unit, either through an accessory dwelling unit, through a carriage house, something like that, or if they live in a 2-family home but don't have anybody living in that, or a 2-level home and they can convert it. That is probably a way that could increase housing on a much faster trajectory than waiting for the 20+ building unit projects. And that's why we looked at in this mailer, identifying many different resources that are out there, from rental rehab. There's going to be it looks like the state is going to be pushing accessory dwelling units. The governor is looking at that. So there are probably additional resources that will come out of this in the future with increased funding in the next year of the legislature. But we try to get lots of different resources in this mailer, which talks about the rental rehab program. It also identifies some different landlord groups for landlords, and then even home energy loans for individual homeowners that are looking at weatherizing their home, but they can get 0% interest loans. I'm in the weatherization business, and I meet with lots of people about it, and very few people know that Efficiency Vermont offers a 0% interest loan through local credit unions. Very few people, I would say less than 10%. And that's why something like this is important, because that information is out there on Efficiency Vermont's website, but very few people will go to it unless they know. So if we can get it in front of them, should benefit.
Anything further?
Yeah. Other question.
Yeah.
So is this the actual sample of what's gonna go out?
It is a bigger scale of,
It's a half a, didn't it say half a page on here?
Just the bottom section.
The bottom section.
Just the bottom section.
Oh,
It's awful tiny.
Well, so it'll be larger than that when it's just by itself.
is it going to be a 1-page?
No, half a page.
Two-sided.
Two-sided half page. Good.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, you're right. It'll be bigger. Definitely.
I was just gonna say that if this was that,
Can't read it.
well, not only that, but we should put the Bellows Falls seal up with the Rockingham.
Yep, definitely.
Seeing as the focus was on Bellows Falls.
Yep. And it's going in Bellows Falls water bill.
Yep, can add that for sure.
But if it's not, if they're not gonna be on there or whatever, it's no big deal.
I
You
guess
need a motion?
we do, but I just want to say, my only concern is that we open the door to nonprofits of all kinds starting to ask us to put things in our water bills. And that is a concern, because it does cost us postage. It takes time for the people that we pay 50% of their salaries. So those are, I don't want to add to their additional tasks along with what we're already doing. So that's my only concern, caveat for the future, is that this is a worthwhile project. It is something that will benefit village residents because of their homes and stuff, but I just don't want to open the door to additional. I guess I'm mainly speaking to Mr. Fox as far as other nonprofits are concerned. That's it. So yes, a motion would be great.
All right, I'll make the motion that we include this information from the, is it Midwig or whatever it is?
Redwig.
Redwig. Redwig.
It's a great acronym.
In the March water sewer bills.
I'll second that one.
Any further discussion on this? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Gary?
Yeah, so I just want to put a plug in that as this is not some separate organization or nonprofit, it is on the town and village website under municipal projects. if you look at the drop-down menu,
Mhm.
there's a page called Incremental Development Alliance, and all of this great workshops, the recordings of them are on there. You can look at marketing information and how you read that. You can look at how to do a pro forma. If you have a carriage house and want to redevelop it, it tells you how you can fill in the numbers and tell if you're gonna lose money or make money. So a lot of good information on there, and the town website, municipal projects, incremental development alliance.
Okay, and looking at the fact that we're taking something that's, can be technologically advanced and we're whipping it back to snail mail. I'm just saying, we need something in between that can get to more people more often. We need to put in our thinking caps and think about other things that we could do to increase access to information, that's all. I don't know what it would be per se. More stuff on the kiosk, a bigger kiosk, the television screen on the kiosk, I don't know, something. Number 6 takes
Did
us
we
to,
vote?
oh, yes, oh, did we do the vote? Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
We
I
did.
think so.
Yeah, we did.
We did.
To ARPA project input. Now, I have to have this put on here, and I know we have a schedule of things that we're doing, but, and I didn't give a copy to Wade, because if you would do that, but I wanted us all, because we are going to be making, for the village itself, the final decision on what projects will be there. We'll have a lot of input, but I also want to make sure that we have our own input, that we also think about what we think is in the best interest based upon all the requirements for ARPA funding and what we think, because we have utilities to concern ourselves with, and we want to move into the future, and this is available money now. And I know that we can talk about grants till the cows come home, but the reality is this money is available. Grant money is not necessarily available. It's a pot that everybody has their hands in. So both Stefan and I had come up with some ideas. You guys have got them. I think Gary's the only one who doesn't have
I just gave my
copies.
copy.
Okay. Of ideas moving forward and just putting it on the plate. And if you have your own ideas, that we should all be able to put those forward. And these aren't necessarily any more heavily weighted than any ideas that will come into us through the process. But we also have to think of everything we're doing for the taxpayer. That's what we're elected to do. And that's why I wanted this on the agenda tonight, before we move into the process in February. That was it. And any further discussion on this item?
Yeah, the only thing, what, I thought that was what we were going to make a contribution of some form of ideas from the board anyways.
Mhm.
But what I did is I took a look at it was the Brookings Foundation group, had a lot of ideas of what was going on in the rest of the country with this money. You know, we've talked about the silo, for example, down at the sewer plant. So my thoughts are, you know, from a board standpoint, it's an infrastructure, it's a capital improvement. Why borrow if we have the money to buy right up front? Although you've got to look at what's available, I guess, in terms of matching or grants, et cetera. And I realize that takes time, but also I want to take a look at things that we can do now. I think we're headed for an economy that's going to have a problem here, especially if a shooting war starts in Europe. And that's maybe out there in the future, but we ought to be thinking about that. But we're looking at infrastructure improvements that we are aware of, whether it be for water or sewer. If we have these available funds, I certainly don't want to get into increasing water or sewer bills any more than we have to, or compared to what we've already have. And I hear that from people out there in the community. So if we can do something for the people that are the taxpayers, taking care of projects like that. For another example, is we talked about the cloud, reference the camera video storage. That's a substantial amount of money. So if we could pay some of that off to get us to the future where we're not having to increase our tax rate or our overhead, we can make it less of an impact for the future. It's just a thought. That's where my thoughts are coming from.
Anyone
I
else?
have a
Yes,
question.
please.
You know, Scott, and these two are on my mind, but the house on Hapgood Extension that's got the hole in it.
The tree, yeah.
And the house down at the south end, it's not Granger Street, Barker Street. It's well, the results of the fire, huge fire. Are those properties delinquent in taxes?
They're not delinquent to the level of your current policy. I believe they're only delinquent within a year. They're not delinquent 2 years or more than $2,000. I'll have to double check.
Well, because in keeping with this ARPA funds, my feeling is, first of all, if there's a project that would provide development or revenue, I mean, really, it's revenue. That has some leverage involved. That would be where my first choice would be. The second would be taking advantage of opportunities where if we did something, then development could happen.
Right.
There's no direct leverage, but it would certainly clear a space for development. And or obviously the converse of that, and of course, any kind of development or revenue is good for our taxpayers, as is eliminating expenses. So the
Well, I think from a staff perspective, we've taken a hard look at all of this, as Deb had mentioned. There's lots of pots of federal money right now floating around with all sorts of opportunities. So we want to do the preliminary engineering reports and get ourselves into all of the state projects that we can, because that helps us stretch our local ARPA funding farther.
Right.
So we're working on those. We have been working on those, and we'll get you those as we submit, because they're important, because they do, a lot of those dovetail on some of the conversations you already have, trying to flood proof some of our water and sewer infrastructure, for example, making sure that we can handle material that we're now drying in a more efficient manner for the long term. So those are all projects that we're working on to see if we can find other pots of money. Some of them are stormwater related, seeing if there's some monies out there for those things on a statewide basis. So we're working on those. And then if we're not, as Deb said, there's lots of people lining up for lots of projects. So we're realistic and understand that we're not going to get everything we ask for. And at that point, then, how do those projects then dovetail into some of the other projects that have come through this ARPA process, through this board? And then ultimately, how do we decide to leverage that money? Because I agree, it's important how it's spent. I think people are going to hold you to task on that. So.
And I'd like to say, Deb, not to put one across your bow there on your other board position, but I think it's a pretty great thing that Scott and Gary have stepped up to the plate with it. We've got the transparency that we're talking about with what we're doing here. And I saw what Jigs had done on the Rockingham School Board there on impact on taxes with some of the funds that they have available as a surplus. What I'm not seeing, and I don't watch them all, but what I do, the Union School Board meeting, I get the message that there's a lot of COVID monies out there, but I don't see where they're spending a lot of it or where they're electing to come up with ideas.
We're not
And
talking about a lot of it. I
I'm
can tell
hearing
you
about
that.
rooms and roofs and stuff like that, that as a taxpayer is gonna impact me and the other people in the town of Rockingham, as well as the village of BF and Saxons River. And I think my opinion was I'd like to see more transparency from your board,
Oh, in the high school.
the high school board, is
Yeah.
how they're spending, or, I mean, I've heard some
The extra
figures.
money, yeah.
Yeah,
but it's really the supervisory union. They control it.
right,
Okay, the high school, they haven't given an allotment to the high school. or
right,
Anybody else. They're gonna make the decision, but they're looking at all of the properties in all of the towns and the needs.
so I mean, I'm hearing millions of dollars and I'm seeing the discussion that we're proposing that we're gonna go through here. I'm
Right.
not,
I know.
I'm not seeing that
It's a
there.
totally different process. I know, exactly. Yeah, and I'm not sure why it's not as local as that. The school district isn't as open or transparent about how they're planning to spend the money. You know how all that's gone. It's been in the newspapers too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I will say this, from what I've been able to do research on, there were 3 ESSER or ARPA
Right,
fundings that the Union District qualified for.
Yep.
The first 2, which amounted to about $5 million, there was no vetting process required. It was up to the superintendent of schools basically to make those decisions. And I can say that it would appear to me that most of those monies have gone to directly deal with COVID-related issues, both in terms of supplies, safety supplies, putting up barriers in offices and classrooms and stuff like that. And also to hire staff that are either assisting in the testing and medical issues, or are interventionalists. These are teachers that are helping kids that are falling behind in their learning process during it. So that's the first two.
Yeah.
The third one, which is the $15 million
Yeah,
Right.
big piece, yeah.
that is supposed to be vetted
Yeah.
in a manner, I wouldn't say necessarily similar to ours, but
Right.
More public.
more
Yeah, more
public. There
public.
should be an opportunity for public input. And I think from where I sit, I think taking advantage of those funds for as many capital projects on the buildings
Mhm.
that we can would be kind of my first priority, but there is supposed to be a process where public input is received.
So we'll get there. We're not yet. Okay. Is there any further discussion on this item? We're at the early concept stages. I just wanted all my trustees to get
thank
the
you
idea.
both
They
for-
had ideas that they should put them forth, and we'll combine them with all the others coming into the hearings.
So do you want me to, when I draw my list up, do you want me to forward it to you?
Yeah,
You'll,
we'll keep them all together. I'll send a copy or
More
send
the
a copy
merrier.
to Scott.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that we have as many ideas as possible, to get them, and we can think about developing them more, or getting more behind them, and there will be a huge basket full of ideas, I'm sure, by the time we're all done with this process. Okay, so I guess we can move on. But did you have anything else, Gary? on this item?
great, thank you.
And then number 7 is the financials, which you have before you. Questions on those, or do you have any preliminary stuff to say, Scott?
Nothing updated since the last time we spoke. Liz and I were working on a couple things. We still don't have that journal entry that we discussed that will be impacting the water fund. So I know we brought that up. We're also looking at the presentation of, I know the board has asked multiple times about the insurance incentive and how that can be better indicated through our budget process, because it seems confusing or somewhat. So Melissa and I have talked about what options there might be, so that it's clearer what are incentive payments, what are regular insurance payments. So
Right.
you get a better handle on how that's going to be.
In previous
broken
years, we
out.
did have it rolled out. We did have it separated, so we anticipated how much we would spend in incentive dollars.
Right.
And then we had the regular health insurance.
No,
And then it got combined together in the last year. So
Right.
now when it's thrown out again, pushed out again, it's not budgeted, so it just looks awful.
So we're gonna do something to try to separate that, and we'll try to put something in the budget as we go forward for the budget process as well. We'll talk about the general fund and the other budget process, so we'll try to address it through that as well.
Okay. Jakes, did you have a question?
Well, like Scott said, we basically seen, this is an updated version, but I think that the same, I'm concerned about the wages accounts for both the sewer plant, the fire department, and the police department. I think those are issues that I would hope the managers of each of those entities has a plan to come in on budget. I know the police account has that extraordinary item in it, which brings it much closer to being on target
Yes.
for the year. But anyway, I think the obviously the revenue items are the revenue from police activities, whether we'll see any pickup on that. And that's about it. I think most of the things are tracking reasonably well.
I did have one question.
Mhm.
On page 2 of 17. I find it hard to believe that the union legal negotiations line, like 2/3 of the way down the page, could possibly just be $90. That was all. I just thought it would have been higher than that. Did we have, because we had some lag over at the beginning of the new fiscal year. Didn't we, after from union
I
stuff?
think most of those bills were.
I think we satisfied most of that.
In the end of FY 21?
Yeah, it's painful, but we did.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
We could read it.
no, that's okay. We don't need any more bills, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I think Jakes is right. There's some areas that have been over, but we've
Right,
been
we're-
looking at those and
Right.
already, so there's nothing new. Does anyone else have any other questions on the?
Well, I had one question, but I
Yeah.
can't find it. It's water thing.
Water.
I guess, well, I was just curious more than anything on the water, the repairs and maintenance,
I'm sorry, what page are we on?
page 11 of 17.
Thank you.
Says meters, water
Yep.
meters,
That looked pretty high.
186%.
Budget of 10, and we spent 18 so far.
I'm assuming that's a meter for. That's not household meters, is it? Residential meters.
Well, I think some of them are the replacement to do the radio reads and to upgrade it so that they're not. it's
Yeah,
easier.
yeah, I think we were
try
doing
to
like
do
so many
per-
each year,
Right.
Oh,
but I don't think then I would say that we underestimated our expenses when we budgeted for that.
No, I think the issue has been like most other things, I think we were trying to do them in batches, and I think the prior year we had a problem getting them.
No,
So
so
I think we carried over and then we finally got them in this year. I think that's why you're seeing it as a higher cost.
yeah.
So it's still the same program that you've been supporting. It's just with these supply chain issues, stuff's not getting delivered on a regular basis.
yeah, I did circle that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just kind of stuck out there. I was.
Anything else? Hearing none, looks like we're good.
Can I say something?
Sure,
Oh,
go ahead.
For the insurance incentives that you had, I did reallocate the budget money to the insurance incentive line so that it does now show, if you look on page 4, it shows a budget.
Oh, look at that. Thanks, Alyssa.
So I just reallocated it from the health insurance line and put it in its own line to make it look normal.
Yeah.
So, but I do agree. I
I
think
see that.
if, we're a small enough organization that if we've got a pretty good idea that employee A is going to take, a family plan and employee B is going to take an incentive, that's the way we ought to budget.
Budgeted, yeah.
I
Throwing
think
it
we do
together.
that knowing that we don't stay static and the changes through the year are not that dramatic.
Exactly.
Right,
We're not adding
exactly.
10
And then when in doubt, you assume they're going to take insurance, I think.
As opposed
Typically,
to
you.
the incentive.
Right.
Correct. Yep.
We didn't win that argument last year.
No, we didn't,
No.
but it's fixed now. That's what matters. That's what I.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, we move on to review agenda items for the next meeting at February 8th. Looks like we've got a couple of them already. And send items if you've got to me or to Scott, if you've got some ideas about agenda items. Review agenda items for the next joint board meeting. It's not until, I think it's to the end of March.
Yes.
We've got a while now. We've got some things to do on there, so.
Yep.
We'll
We'll have some ARPA work on
Well,
that.
ARPA work will be started, yeah, we'll be talking about probably about the tax sale stuff, some of it, where the
Right.
process is at the time. Moving along on that.
Yep.
I wanted to ask where what is it, is the North Westminster issue going on? You were
Yeah, we
working-
had a conference call with the attorney and my two department, the water and sewer guys. And so we're getting some new language drawn up.
Oh, for
I was
for
hoping
the
to have
contract,
something for you to review. I don't know if it'll be ready for the 8th. If not, it'll be by the 22nd,
okay,
before the next bill.
and then I don't know, and then before we massage it and then
Yes.
get it off to them and then see what happens and Do you anticipate that we'll need to have a meeting with them?
My guess is they'll probably want to sit down and talk.
Yeah. Okay,
Nothing wrong with that.
just putting it in the back of my mind. Review and approve orders, bills, and warrants. Do we have any this evening?
No.
No.
No, okay,
Nope.
so next time.
Yes.
All right. Other business. Scott,
No, nothing more.
wait,
I meant to do this at the last meeting, but I just wanted to give a shout out to the local fire department folks that gave their time on, I don't know, Sunday or two ago to go around and pick up
the
Christmas
Christmas
trees.
trees.
Yeah,
Their annual Christmas tree pickup.
there was a nice article about how they got burned too.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Usually they get checked, but not this year.
Yeah,
It was good training. It looked like lots of pictures.
Yeah,
Pretty
boy,
dramatic.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Jigs,
please get your vaccinations.
Stefan,
Yeah, just an update, my understanding from a note that I received on the Route 12 in North Walpole and Charlestown is they are starting something. There is some activity, and with an estimated completion date, I believe, of April 29th of this year.
okay.
So that'll help when that opens back up.
Yeah, I have a follow-up call with some of the Vermont DOT people this week to continue our conversation
About the
additional
road.
damages
Yeah.
and follow-ups on some things I think still need to be corrected on the Vermont side, so I'll keep you in the loop.
Okay.
Still
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. And the other thing I'd like to say is, it's cold, there's limited space with snow coming down continually, so be careful with the Windsor Housing Project. They have, part of the road on Canal Street is closed, but they are pushing some out onto the top north end of Canal Street, and that's causing some dangerous situations, especially if you're going on or coming off the bridge. So I just caution everyone to take it easy, go slow. You don't want to have an additional fender bender or some other accident out there. Be safe during the winter, and that's an additional hazard, but they've got to get that work started, so they are. All right, we do have need for an executive session,
Reference
the purpose being, which one is it?
personnel or
Is it,
contracts, or what are we talking about?
or is it appointment
It
or
would be
employment or
number
retirement?
2.
Number 2.
It's not, so it's number
Yes.
2.
Okay, so we're gonna need a motion.
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we enter into an executive session to discuss the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee. But the body must make a final decision to hire or appoint in an open meeting, and it must explain the reasons for its final decision for 1 VSA State Statute 313A and 3. And also that premature general knowledge may place us at a substantial disadvantage.
Need a second?
Do you want to invite the man?
Oh, invite.
Oh,
them.
and invite
Yeah.
the municipal manager.
Manager.
My apologies, Scott.
Now a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned and into executive session. I do not believe we'll be having any,
Not anticipating.
nope, nothing. So, thank you for attending, everyone. And have a good night.